going to look at quotations really quickly. So make sure your paper looks like mine. When we talk about quotations, we can talk about them in many different ways. We could be talking about the marks that we use. So like our quotation marks. We could be talking about a direct quote from, that somebody is talking about. We could be talking about dialogue, that conversation. So we're just going to break that down and look at that really quickly. So for our first blank, a direct quotation is taking someone's exact words and putting them in writing. So a lot of times when I'm talking about a direct quotation, I'm talking about maybe citing something. So that's something that we'll get into a little bit more as we go. But what I mean by that is, if I asked you to provide evidence, I would say, give a quote to support your answer. And I mean a direct quotation. So word for word from the text. Okay. So direct quotation is taking someone's exact words and putting them in writing. When you write someone's exact words, you are writing a direct quote. So our example right here, Thwaites said, "My father knows all about this stuff. He is a doctor." So we can tell that because Thwaites said it, the way that this is written, we know that Thwaites said those words specifically. So if, we were there in that moment, we would know he said that word for word, nothing has changed. It's a direct quote. Now, when we have quotations, we use commas to separate the speaker from the quotation. So a comma separates the speaker from the quote. When a quote ends in a question mark or an exclamation point, you do not use a comma. Okay, so for example, if we're looking here, and I noticed after I made my copies that this letter is missing that says filthy, okay? Our example says, "Her hands are filthy." Okay, so when you look right here, we see it's an exclamation mark, okay? There is not a comma there. We are ending our quote with a strong statement, so we are leaving it at that exclamation mark and moving on. Next, we see that sometimes a quote is interrupted in the middle. When this happens, you end the first part of the quote. That I is missing as well. I don't know what happened. When this happens, in the first part of the quote with a comma and quotation marks. And start the second part of the quote with a comma and quotation marks. So our example down here says, "After dinner, Dad said, let's play a game." Okay, so we have our quote here and here, and it's separated by this right here. We've got that little bit of an interruption. A lot of times that is done just for emphasis of something, or maybe even just to remind you who's speaking. Okay, so notice the way we've done our punctuation. We've got a comma in our quote, and then after our interruption, we have a comma, and then we have another quote, okay? And then one we've talked a little bit about, dialogue. It's a conversation between two or more people. When you're writing, remember that you state which person is speaking each time. And each time there is a new speaker, or if a speaker changes, you are starting a new paragraph. Okay. I was going to mention something and I already forgot what it was, but that's not unusual. Okay, so keep in mind, our direct quotation is exactly what someone is saying, okay? Direct quote, exact words. Dialogue is conversation. All right. Okay, so what you're going to do with these notes is you're going to put them in your interactive notebook. Then you are going to work on the short assignment that I have for you just to practice with your quotations.